This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you doing?
We had both Alexes. So, guys, welcome to our show today. We have a guest whose name is also Alex. Alex Shrimpton, say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alex Shrimpton. I head up financial services and insurance here at Infinity. My friends call me Marshall, so it's probably easier for us to do that for naming conventions today.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll call you Marshall so we don't get confused with our Alex.
I mean, when I was a kid, in my social network, there was never anyone else called Alex. So my name was actually very unique when I was growing up. And then all of a sudden, I hit a point in my life where there was Alexes everywhere, and it affected me deeply. I was like, I'm not unique anymore.
Feel your pain if that's any consolation.
Well, it is very funny for me because I now know a lot of Alexes, and when I have to kind of say, no, my Alex, no, not that Alex, my Alex. To differentiate. In fact, I sent Alex Marshall, I sent Alex a message that your Dylan sent to me saying, Alex referred me to you and told me to listen to your podcast or whatever. So I forwarded it to Alex and he went, but I don't know this person. I'm like, no, he wasn't talking about you. He was talking about Alex Shrimpton.
Well, because in my mind, I was like, oh, Erica always gets lots of these catfish kind of people. So I was like, well, maybe this is another person that has done their due diligence and investigated, saying that she knows she's got a colleague called Alex. So I'm going to put the Alex, and I was like, oh, I better tell her, warn her. I haven't actually spoken to the person.
No, Dylan, if you're listening to this, you did a great job. Well done.
At catfishing.
At catfishing, yeah, professionally.
Fantastic.
You should do a podcast on the professional catfish. That should be a thing.
The professional catfish, yeah, actually. Yeah, we should. All right. Note for later.
Yeah, we should talk about catfish, actually. I think there's an angle there about knowing your customer, because some of them are good at investigating who you are, doing a bit of research, others are not. Right?
Absolutely. So, Marshall, the reason that we invited you on today is because I love some of the stuff you're doing in terms of marketing attribution. So for the lay people listening to the call, often when you spend in marketing, especially to not trackable things are easy. So if you buy Google ads and you click to a landing page and that goes straight through to a salesperson, that's easy. You can say I spent X and I got sales. But if you're sending people generically to your website and then they just go to a generic contact page, you don't know what that spend's going through. And where to spend more money and where to spend less. And as we've shared on this show many, many times, both Alex and I are a little bit cheap. We don't like spending money. We want to make sure we're getting the optimum ROI for our buck. And so we like knowing. So Alex, tell us a little bit more about the solution that you have.
So Infinity is a call intelligence platform. It was built off call tracking. Call tracking, effectively, it bridges the gap between online and offline customer interaction. So it provides a complete view of that customer's journey. I think there's a bit of misinterpretation in the industry around what call tracking is in this description. It involves assigning unique phone numbers to different marketing sources like you talked about, but it's also around dynamically tracking interactions on the website. So it's tracking the same things that Google Analytics is tracking. So page-to-page interactions, where they came in from, how long they spent on each page, whether they're downloading anything or watching content, that kind of stuff. But what it's also doing is it's providing a unique number specific to that user's session. So it means that when a phone call comes in off the back of that online journey, we can tie those two pieces of information together. And that's invaluable for marketers, because you can say that marketing source or that keyword spend that I put into the front end has driven that journey and driven that call.
Fabulous. What do you think, Alex? Exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, and I especially having visibility at every single step is crucial to be able to optimize your campaigns. And I just wanted to pick up first of all what you said, Eric, is like, when 'cause we did another episode before where we said we've spoken to lots of businesses and even marketers. Do you have in your business? And a lot of them say no, we don't have it. So you can't actually say it's a given that even if they're doing online advertising that they've got all the correct analytics in. I think we did cover that before. But it's much more accessible, the online analytics. There's a lot of built-in stuff, but when you're taking offline to online, I think that's where you can find a lot of lost touch points. And it's really important to be able to have visibility on those. Otherwise, you're kind of fishing in the dark, looking in the dark, searching in the dark. I don't know. I guess you can fish in the dark. A lot of people do night fishing, don't they?
I think they
Sure,
do.
no, really good point. I suppose on that point, like I see different ends from different sides of insurance and from financial services. I've got businesses that are 90% plus of their business is done over the phone.
Okay.
Companies like, well, previously Aston Lark as an example, Howden Group now, where a huge amount of their business is being transacted over the phone. They're spending a huge amount on paid media. There's no way of tracking that and attributing that. But then on the flip side of things, there you've got something like Direct Line Group, where less than 10% of their total business is probably done over the phone. But actually, it's almost as important for them to have call tracking as it is for those with 90%, because in those bigger scales, especially when you're working with tighter margins, the Direct Line Group, they're using things like econometrics for their attribution modeling.
Yeah.
And actually having call tracking in place to be able to tie together those crucial parts of the journey that you're missing. You talk about 10%, but 10% for a business that's spending 20 million a year on PPC. I mean, that's a huge amount of money that you're not attributing. And when you talk about stockholders and shareholders that are investing in that, they want to know where that £2 million is going.
No, absolutely. And even though, and we've been in businesses, Alex, where the spend was fine, we had big budgets, it was going, but there's always some sort of turning point where suddenly you need to justify your spend, budgets get cut, which part of your marketing budget do you cut? If you're not understanding which part is actually driving the right revenue, you're going to make the mistake and cut the wrong piece. And there's some softer issues like SEO, search engine optimization, which is much harder to be able to say, I spent X, therefore I got Y. And if you don't really understand how it all fits together and which part of it is driving the actual spend, you're going to cut the wrong thing and find a huge drop in revenue.
Yeah. And also it's not only is it just makes sense to be able to understand your the measurements that you have, but it's just also the arsenal that you have to support the work that you're doing. So I mean, I've had personal experience where someone who's not working in marketing but does have a decision on what you're doing, someone in finance or even just someone higher up, they would say, I don't like this, I don't think it's working. And if you don't have the measurements in place, you can't say, no, it is working, because then you're just fighting back with your own opinion, really. But if you have the data and to back it up, then then it's not really a conversation, is it? Just if you have something that's saying it's working, then then it stays like that. But if you have nothing to say that it's working, then it's just
all
your
feelings based.
Yes, your feelings versus the feelings of someone who is in a higher position with you. And guess what? The person with the feelings in a higher position than you will win.
Will win. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like data removes emotion.
Yeah.
Exactly. Being able to have that actual data to prove a point, it just removes any of that, perspective or interpretation around it. Yes, there's a little bit in amongst, reading the data in the right way, but it's a lot more conclusive than saying, oh, no, I know that that's worked.
No, exactly. I love that. Data removes emotion. Really cool.
And you made a point there, Erica, actually around SEO. And that's a really, really good point, because the biggest pain point I come across when I'm speaking to marketing teams is, where's the biggest spend? It's paid media.
Yeah.
Or events. Those are the two big ones. It's one of those two. And it's like, we need to be able to prove and attribute the spend that we're doing there, because we want to be able to go and ask for more, or we want to be able to, do a better job of what we're doing at the moment. But when you talk about SEO, and you talk about things like PR as an example, you talk about a brand like Lotus, you talk about like big public authority organizations and so on that are spending tons on PR in terms of getting the right PR and changing and shaping. It's like, how do you prove that?
Yeah.
And that's part of where we look to assist as well, because we've got the call tracking piece there. That's the start. The during the call piece is actually understanding what's happening on the call. And something as simple as, oh, I saw in Radio Times, or I saw in the Telegraph, hearing that on a call means that we can understand and attribute that correctly. And then actually the customer journey piece there, if you can see that they've been on the website 7 times and 2 of them were from paid media, the rest of them were from organic, clearly you're doing your job.
Yeah. Love
and that's why I think that attribution model, and whatever attribution model that business is picking, is so important.
Yeah, but it's not just for big businesses, right? I mean,
no.
I think with a lot of times when we talk, again, just in our previous episode, we were talking about what were we talking about? We were talking about CRM systems, and that for some small businesses it can feel quite overwhelming to go from maybe what they're currently doing, which might be in Excel, or even just writing down on a piece of paper all of the information they have, taking that step into a completely digital world with a platform that offers so many things. It can be a bit overwhelming, and a lot of small business owners think, oh, well, that's just not for me. But there are lots of options in terms of pricing packages. You can start small, get big, or whatever, but still, I still think it's very, very applicable to those small businesses. I mean, what's your opinion on that, Alex, and the value you can drive for small businesses versus large businesses?
I think CRMs, for me personally, my CRM of choice would always be HubSpot, personally, because actually for a small business, it can provide everything. It could do the hosting of your CMS, it can do your marketing automation, your email nurture, it can do your CRM note taking. You can actually do calls inbound and outbound from that platform as well, and it will log everything in the same place. So I think for a CRM, for any business, regardless of the size, it is your corporate memory. If you wanted to then teach and train someone else to take over that, it has all of that data in the right place. Whether you're using it in the right way is a completely different story. But something like HubSpot has all of the training there and has all the resources in place to be able to do that. And I'm just speaking biased here for one. There's loads of different CRM platforms out there, but I think that for any business, you really should have a basic CRM system in place, regardless of what it is. You definitely shouldn't be having it in a notepad or in an Excel sheet, something that's static. It should be something that you can adjust and see the changes on. Because if you can say, okay, I had a customer that I originally met at this networking event, we spoke about XYZ, you can log that in the CRM as soon as you get back from that networking event. 2 weeks later, you've sent them an email, hey, it was great to meet you a couple of weeks back. You've then had a meeting, you've then followed up, 6 months down the line, you've done a bit of business. You want to be able to tie back that was the networking event that you met them at. You want to be able to see all those different touch points in the middle. So important. And there's no way anyone will be able to remember everything that's happened there. And whether you use that data or not right then, it's still important to have that track, because at some point in the future, if you're going to look to scale, you want to have the data in place to be able to interrogate and say what works best. Well, we know that networking works best because it needs this many touch points to close a deal.
Absolutely. It's the same with the marketing attribution, right? I would even argue that it's possibly even more important with a large business where you might have deep pockets, and you could possibly turn a blind eye to some leaky holes. But as a small business, every penny really counts, and being able to understand exactly what your return on your investment is at every touch point is really, really important. But if we just stay on the small business point of view, from your perspective, what is kind of like the basic setup that is required for a small business owner to start understanding the full journey of their customer in terms of their marketing and the attribution from offline to online?
Could do myself out of a job here. I'm talking about HubSpot again. I would say is the best. I mean, you can get a starter package on HubSpot for $1,000, and that's a year's license. That gives you access to their service hub, their sales hub. It gives you access to their marketing hub. It gives you access to their CMS platform. You can build a website on there.
Do you have
It
an
does
affiliate
everything.
code, Alex?
No, I don't know. but you. I'm
You
just
should get
speaking
one.
I'm speaking from personal experience. Like it's a great platform and it does everything out of the box. So many different CMS platforms like WordPress or Wix, you have to integrate or set up logins and stuff to all these different analytics platforms and things that you're going to do. Whereas HubSpot has everything inbuilt. You know, your cookie tracking, your journey tracking, that kind of stuff. All of that is in the platform already. And you build a website in there, it's tracking from day one. It's tracking all that activity. So if you're out of the box, you're starting fresh, I would say, yeah, absolutely look at HubSpot, because that is a great system just to get you off the ground quickly. It is a fairly decent investment in terms of a small business, because who's got a grand and a half to spare when you're starting a brand new business? But it's an investment that I would say is a very worthwhile one if you're really serious about it.
And what about if they're from offline to online? So if they're running offline marketing, advertising campaigns, and that are driving people online, what would your suggestion be there? Because I guess HubSpot is not designed for that side of things, right?
No. But I mean, we integrate with HubSpot. But the easiest way for the offline stuff, you're either going to have a phone number or you're going to have a UTM that you're going to create in some way, whether that's a QR code or whether that is a particular domain that you're sending them to, whatever it might be. There will be a way of tracking that, you know, this was the piece of collateral, or at least in an ideal world, you should have a unique identifier for that piece of collateral. You know, I attended this event, this was the booklet I had, this was the leaflet I had, and this was the UTM parameter from that code. That's the really simple stuff that you should be tracking, just to say, you know, this is what I set, this is what I showed them, this is what they had, and then they've come to the website because they've got that piece of collateral. That's number one. And like our system as an example, we can track that and link that in. But then that online journey, that's where that ties together. And if you've got a phone call that then happens, you know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, off the back of that, we can then tie those journeys together. So you can say, you know, visits coming from offline collateral, they come back 2 months later, they then picked up the phone and called in. Being able to just attribute those points together, that's going to be your last click, you know, your last touch attribution that drove that.
So we use SMS codes, right? Unique SMS codes of every different channel when we did TV advertising, right? Every channel had its own SMS code. So that's how we knew. Or unique phone numbers. We used to have a bank of phone numbers. Remember, Alex? We could track every phone number to every channel. So there's different ways of doing it. What I loved about chatting to you the other day, Alex, was when we were talking events. And like one of my bugbears is when you send people to events, often they have their own business cards with their own phone number in. And that's fabulous. They're handing out these business cards with phone numbers all over. But if that person leaves your organization, anyone with that business card goes with him. It's unconscious, but that's the number they have. So they're going to keep phoning, let's say, Bob.
That number.
And if Bob's gone to competitor X, that person's gone with Bob. Whereas your solution provides unique numbers that the business can own. And therefore, if you phone, you're going to ask for Bob, and we're going to go, oh, sorry, Bob's no longer with us, but Alice is fabulous. Let me put her through to you, so that we're keeping control of that interaction and that event, because events can be costly, especially if you have a stand. You know, if you think about the brochures, if you think about the collateral, all the water bottles and everything that goes into an event, you don't actually want, you know, contact details there to be out of your control. And I love that solution, is that they could still be sent to, you know, the right person or whatever. But if you do have a case of, and a lot of businesses, think about the call center we worked in, Alex, the staff don't stay long, right? They're in for short tranches. So you have so much churn that you actually do need to manage that those contacts are staying within your business and not walking off with whoever has walked out the door, right? So I love that. I thought that was a really cool way to keep control, and you can have that unique number per event, so that, you know, for event X, this is the number. So even if people phone 3 months, 6 months later, which often they do, and especially the insurance where you've got the renewal cycles. So, you know, when you're talking to them may not be when their insurance is up for renewal, but then in 3 months' time, the insurance is up for renewal. They go dig out for that card. I'm being super optimistic that this is what people do. But then they're still coming in, and you can still allocate, oh, yes, this is for, you know, the event I held in February, because the number is allocated. Am I right? Have I
That's correct.
Have I memorized it correctly?
You have. We should give you a job. Yeah, that's completely right. And you make a good point there, actually, especially in the broker space, because the loyalty within the brokers, you know, they flip around, they move from brokerage to brokerage, you know, and that point does happen quite a lot. You know, you get people that, you know, have been in a business for 2 years, they get cold feet, whatever it is that they're doing, you know, they cool the jets and they calm down a little bit, and then they get another offer from another broker, and then they move their book of business and they move themselves across somewhere else, and then they move all of their clients across as well. But it's an element of control, and it's an element of attribution. It's keeping the attribution there.
Because it makes sense. If the customer phones a number and they're talking to Bob, and Bob's going, okay, but I'm no longer with B, I'm now with C, the client's not going to care. Okay, Bob, I'm speaking to you, it's fine. But if they're phoning A, going, I'm looking for Bob, we're like, oh, Bob's not with us anymore, I'll speak to Alice, whatever it is, they'll stay with the business. So it's actually just, if you're intercepting the customer before they speak to the person, you've won, right? There's the high, unless they really loved Bob, you know, and they're like, oh no, thank you, hang up the phone, I'm going to go and search on LinkedIn to find Bob and I'm going to follow him wherever. I mean, that's the only chance that you'll lose it then, right? If they're that passionate about Bob. Don't know why I'm saying Bob, but anyway.
No, I completely agree.
What do you think, Alex? So that's something we would have loved to have?
No, absolutely. I mean, well, I remember we used to do a lot of number generation for lots of different TV channels, and at some point I think I was just having dreams about the short 4-digit SMS codes that we had.
We did it all on Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, I know. And I think at one point I pretty much memorized how to say all of our 4-digit SMS codes in Polish, Czech, Hungarian, Greek, Slovakian. Yeah, at one point I was fluent in those languages, only if we talked about 4-digit numbers. But seriously though, it was the difference between successful campaigns and non-successful campaigns. The amount of detail and data that we could get from those campaigns that we were running with those unique numbers, and the attribution was incredible. But to be honest, we took it quite far. I think some of the TV stations actually hated us in the end because
we were like, we don't want that spot. That spot is bad. We want the spot 30 seconds later.
Exactly, and then we were also sending them different. It's effectively a different TV ad because it has a different number coded in hard coded into it, you know, as part of the video. So it's not just the number, we were sending them millions of different files saying, we want these everywhere. And they're like, oh no, what are you doing to us? We're like, yeah, I'm sorry, but and
if they got it wrong, they put the wrong ad with the wrong number on the wrong, like, no, that's the wrong one. We're not paying for that spot. We told you that 3664 goes on that channel, not this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were doing it in countries where it wasn't common practice. So it wasn't the norm. So we were really kind of breaking the mold. It was a lot of work to do, but it was very, very beneficial. And it was honestly the difference between having the business and not having the business.
Yeah. Do you mind me just asking a question off the back of
Go
that?
for it.
Because
Sure.
SMS is like one channel in amongst a multitude. And one question I always get asked is around the attribution model that the business is using. Now, I normally find that people are still using last click, but
Yeah.
obviously there's so many different attribution models out there now. I know linear attribution, first click, U-shaped. In those, how in your experience have businesses done the attribution modeling, and what do you find is the, I suppose, the most common?
I think it's definitely last click, because it's the one you know, right? It's the interaction with the business, wherever you came from last. The difficulty is you don't know the 20 steps that happened before. And we had a rule, with, especially in TV advertising, is that we assume the customer has to see our ad at least 7 times before they even make the first call. So therefore, you can't, even if they had no clicks, let's call it clicks, but it was, calls or SMSs from the first 7, if you delete the 7, you're not going to get the 1, because now they're on step 1 and they still need another 6 to go. So it's a hard one, but I think in the main, I'm still seeing lots and lots of last click. What about you, Alex?
No, I would agree with that. It's the most appealing one, I guess. It's as you said, it's the visible one. It's the tangible action, which makes it it just makes sense to most people, I guess.
And especially for people who don't understand marketing, because then it's action equals result, right? That's easy to make sense. For us in marketing, we understand, no, there had to be brand awareness, interest. There's all these other top of the funnel stuff before you got to even action. So if you cut out the top of the funnel, you've got nothing. But that's a marketing conversation. You try and have that with a CFO, and we did try. It didn't work well. You try and have it with someone in finance who's only interested in you spend X and you generate Y, right? That's it. They're not, here's all the stuff you had to do in order to even get the click.
That's why digital is actually just amazing. Where having a clear funnel with all of your different content touch points along the way, you can attribute very, very easily, understand which content or which point in the journey people are starting to then go. It starts to push them for the last click. It is a lot more ambiguous when you're talking about if you're going straight from TV to call center, for example.
But even we did direct mail, Alex, or Marshall, I'm supposed to call you. And that's also another interesting one. And we had direct mail packs with a different number in each version. So we did different versions to A/B test, sometimes A, B, C, D, E, F, G test, right? Different versions. Because you need, in a direct mail, starts with the envelope, starts with, what's on the cover, then if they even open it. There's so many variations to what causes someone to buy. So we used to do all these variations, and literally in each variation, we put a different phone number. And that was the only way we could track. But the problem with that is you couldn't see from the open of the envelope, because that's what, we got deliverability, at least from the post office. That was the report. It wasn't actually delivered or not. But from there, in a black hole until someone picks up the phone. There's nothing. And we did try for a while to send them to the website, but that's even bigger black hole, because if you've got a URL, trying to get someone to put in the / blah, 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 so that you can track it, they don't do it, right? They just go straight for the brand name, and you've lost everything, and you don't know where they've come from. So direct mail is another interesting one that's you have to go into lots of detail, but you still won't get attribution 100%.
Well, that's where testing comes in, right? And that's where attribute your testing sort of there's the crossover between testing and attribution.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're making one small test at a time, that's when you can start to attribute something to it. So for example, if I take your example of the DMs, if you've got lots and lots of data of one particular campaign and say a year's worth of data, and then you change one thing like the color of the envelope, just that. If you then start seeing a deviation from the results that you've been previously having, like less calls or more calls or something, you can then attribute that change to that change in the result.
Yeah.
It's positive or negative. So it's a slower game because you need previous data and time, and then just one change, and then you need more time to gather that data. But it's possible, but that is the offline world, right?
Yeah. Right. I think we could talk marketing attribution all day. Alex, Marshall, whatever your name is, do you want to give us your top tips for anyone listening? Where do you think people should start? What are your top 3 tips after today's call?
I think the key thing is just making sure you have a clear understanding on what you're spending and where you're spending. And you need to be really clear on what the outcome is you're looking for, right? It should always start with what is the outcome I'm looking to drive, and work your way backwards from that. What's the easiest way of me doing that? And if it is by doing SMS, if it is by doing direct mail, great. But again, you need to have attribution models in some way in place. So I think QR codes have been a fantastic improvement in that area, because it means that people can kind of skip out that manual element of having to type in the / and that kind of thing. So it's great on the marketers. It's great for the customer because they can just, photo something and it'll come straight up onto the right thing. So yeah, I think knowing what the outcome is you're looking for, knowing what you're spending, knowing what you're doing, and then having a system in place to be able to track those pieces. So whether that is Google Analytics, I know that might be a cuss word on this, but any kind of analytics platform that's going to be able to deliver what the outcome is that you're looking for. If you're looking to try and understand calls, call tracking platform. If you're looking to try and understand the online completions, it's the online piece. But also as well, the key thing, I think that it's just a lingering thought just to bear in mind for future, is that things like programmatic, things like the really top of funnel stuff, that's always been a really historic problem in terms of being able to attribute what is that actually playing as a role further down that funnel. And I think you shouldn't discount programmatic, because it plays a crucial role in that brand awareness piece, I think. And I think actually things like TikTok, I think, is becoming the new programmatic platform for businesses. I think that's going to be the first touch of an intro to a consumer. And because of the way that their data is framed, you're going to be able to go down to a demographic level, to their interests, all those kind of things there. And you'll be able to target those people based on the type of people that you're looking to try and work with. So I think understanding where your customers are, linking that attribution there, and then making sure that you've got the tools and the analytics in place to be able to track it in the right way. And then back to Alex's point, have a system in place to at least test it and improve it. Whether that's just changing one thing on that every month, or whether that's the way you said about Erica, just A/B split testing or doing variations and just seeing the outcomes of that, having something in place to be able to improve it. So I think if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I think that's the final quote I'll probably leave on.
I like that. That's a good one to end with.
Fantastic. And as per the theme of our podcast, before you do anything else, make sure whatever channels you're using, you know what your customer wants, because it's no good. Your target customer is not going to pick up the phone like me. And then you try and make them phone, because then it's never going to happen.
Because giraffes don't eat steak.
Oh, love it. Yay. Awesome. So Alex, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, if they just want to talk marketing attribution or learn more about your awesome system, where can they find you?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn, so it's Alex Shrimpton, SHRIMPTON. Email's alex.shrimpton@infinity.co. And I'm also on TikTok, infinity_shrimp.
Awesome. Okay. Alex B, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think I agree with everything that Mr. Alex, Mr. Shrimpton, Mr. Marshall, all of the above just left us with. And that was perfect. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Awesome, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.